You've rehearsed conversations that haven't happened yet. You've rewritten the sentence in your head 3 times before it ever left your mouth. And by the time you finally spoke, what came out was so carefully edited, so perfectly safe, that it barely sounded like you at all. I see you. You're not here because you're weak. You're here because you're exhausted, tired of the invisible audience that watches everything you do, tired of scanning faces for disapproval, tired of leaving rooms and immediately replaying every word you said, searching for evidence that you were too much, or not enough, or somehow got it wrong again. There's a version of you that almost no one has ever met. Not because you're hiding something shameful, but because somewhere along the way you learned that the real you wasn't safe to show. So you learned to perform, to edit, to shrink yourself into shapes that might be acceptable, and now you don't remember the last time you simply existed in a room without monitoring yourself from the outside. You know this feeling, don't you? I know this weight. I have carried it myself, and I want to tell you something that might change everything. The judgment you've been bracing for your entire life, the criticism you've been defending against, the rejection you've arranged your whole personality to avoid. It was never quite what you thought it was. And you, the one who has been so afraid to be seen, you were never who you thought you were either. Stay with me. There is freedom on the other side of this. Let me show you what this fear has cost you, not to make you feel worse, but because naming the wound is the first step toward healing it. You've swallowed words that wanted to be spoken. You've kept your hand down when everything in you wanted to raise it. You've agreed with ideas you didn't believe because disagreeing felt too dangerous. You've made yourself smaller, quieter, more palatable, hoping that if you were easy enough to accept, maybe you'd finally be accepted. And it worked, in a way. You survived. You got through the meeting, the dinner, the conversation. You didn't get rejected because you never gave them the real thing to reject. But here's what no one tells you about this strategy. When you hide who you are and people accept you, you don't feel accepted, you feel alone. Because the person they're accepting isn't actually you. It's the performance, the mask, the carefully edited version that you've polished and perfected until it shines. Think of the love you've held back, the words you never said because you were afraid of how they'd land, the people who never got to know the real you, not because you didn't want them to, but because you were too afraid to let them. Think of the friendships that stayed on the surface, the intimacy that was never quite reached, the moments of connection that slipped away because you couldn't risk being truly seen. Isn't it so? And late at night, when the performance is over and you're alone with yourself, there's a grief you can't quite name, a sadness for the person you might have been if you hadn't learned so young that your worth was up for vote. You've felt this, haven't you? The exhaustion of constant self-monitoring, the tight chest before you speak, the way you hold your breath in social situations, waiting to see if you've passed the test, the replaying of conversations hours later, days later, sometimes years later, still searching for what you did wrong. This is not weakness. This is the weight of a war you've been fighting since childhood, a war against an enemy that was never quite real. And I want you to know something. You are allowed to be tired of this. You are allowed to want something different. It is okay to be exhausted. It is okay to want this to stop. You are not broken for struggling with this. You are human. And almost everyone you've ever been afraid of judging you, they're fighting the same invisible war. They're just better at hiding it. Or maybe they're not. Maybe you've been so focused on your own performance that you never noticed theirs. But what if the prison you've been living in has a door? And what if that door has been unlocked this whole time? Here is where everything begins to shift. I want you to ask yourself a question. What exactly are you afraid of? When you imagine being judged, what is it that you're actually defending against? Think about it. Is it their words? Words are just sounds, vibrations in the air, symbols on a screen. They cannot touch you. Is it their facial expression? A movement of muscles that you're interpreting through your own fears? Is it their opinion? And this is where it gets interesting. Their opinion is a thought in someone else's mind, an invisible, intangible pattern of neurons firing in a brain you cannot see, cannot access, cannot control. You are living your entire life in defense of a thought you have never actually witnessed. You know this, don't you? Somewhere beneath the fear, you know how strange this is. You are exhausted from fighting something you cannot touch. You are armored against an enemy made of air. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor of Rome, wrote something that has echoed through 2,000 years. He said, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." Isn't it so? You know your own heart. You know your own intentions. You know the fullness of who you are, and yet a stranger's passing glance can undo you. A raised eyebrow at a meeting can ruin your week. The imagined disapproval of someone you may never see again can shape decisions you'll carry for years. This is not rational, but it is deeply human, and understanding why it happens is the first step toward freedom. There is an old story, passed down through the monasteries of China, about a man crossing a river. It was early morning, the kind of morning where the fog sits so thick on the water that you cannot see your own hand at arm's length. The man was rowing slowly, carefully, making his way to the other shore, and the river was quiet. Just the soft splash of his oars, the creak of wood, his own breathing, and then, out of nowhere, another boat slammed into his. The impact was sudden and hard. His boat rocked violently. Water splashed over the side, soaking his legs. He nearly lost his oar, and in that instant fury rose in him like a wave. He gripped the sides of his boat and shouted into the fog. What kind of fool doesn't watch where they're going? Are you blind? Do you have any idea what you've done? He was ready for a fight. His jaw was set. His hands were trembling. He waited for a voice to answer back, for the confrontation he was certain was coming. But no voice came. The fog began to thin, and as it cleared, he saw the other boat clearly for the first time. It was empty. No one was in it. The boat had simply drifted loose from somewhere upstream, unmanned, unguided. It had floated into his path by the simple physics of current and wind. There was no fool, no enemy, no one to blame. Can you feel the shift in the story? And watch what happened next. This is the part that matters. His anger vanished. Not suppressed, not managed, not wrestled into control. It simply dissolved like morning fog itself because there was nothing left to fuel it. The collision was the same. The water in his boat was the same. The inconvenience, the disruption, the jolt to his body, all of it identical to the moment before. But there was no one to be angry at, and so the anger had nowhere to land. He sat there for a long moment, wet and shaken, staring at the empty boat bobbing beside his, and something shifted in him, a recognition, a question he would carry for the rest of his life. What if every boat that ever crashed into me was empty? Does this make sense? This story is not about a man on a river 2,000 years ago. This story is about you. It's about the meeting where someone glanced at you and you fell silent. It's about the comment that replayed in your head for days. It's about the rejection you still carry, the criticism that shaped how you move through the world, the judgment you've been defending against for years. You thought there was someone in that boat. You thought they saw you, evaluated you, and found you lacking. You thought their opinion was a verdict, delivered with full awareness of who you are. But what if the boat was empty? What if the person who judged you was lost in their own fog, reacting to their own fear, their own wounds, their own desperate need to feel superior because they felt so small inside? What if their judgment had almost nothing to do with you, and everything to do with the current that was carrying them, the storm inside them that you never saw? You have been defending yourself against empty boats. You have been bracing for enemies that were never really there. And the weight you've been carrying, the exhaustion of constant vigilance, it was never protection. It was a war against ghosts. You have permission to stop fighting now. Let this settle for a moment. Breathe. But this understanding, as powerful as it is, goes even deeper. There's still one question we haven't asked, and it's the question that changes everything. Who is the one being judged? I'm not asking this philosophically. I'm asking it directly. When you fear someone's judgment, who exactly are you trying to protect? Is it your body? Your body changes every 7 years. The cells you have now are not the cells you had as a child. Is it your personality? Your personality shifts depending on who you're with, what you've eaten, whether you slept well. Is it your thoughts? Your thoughts are clouds passing through the sky of your mind. They come and go without your permission. So which you are they judging, and which you is afraid? The you from 10 years ago? That person barely exists anymore. The you from yesterday, already fading into memory. The you that you perform in public, that's not you. That's a character you created for safety. You have been defending a mask, and the face beneath it was never in danger. Hello? Are you still with me? There was once a mask maker, the finest in his village. His masks were so beautiful, so lifelike, that people traveled great distances to buy them. He could create any face. Noble, fierce, gentle, wise. But he had a secret. He had worn masks for so long that he could no longer remember his own face. Every morning he put on a mask before leaving his home. Every evening he removed one mask, only to find another beneath it. And deep at night, alone, a terrible fear would grip him. What if there's nothing underneath? What if I remove the final mask and find only emptiness? One night he could bear it no longer. He sat before his mirror and began to remove them, one after another. The confident mask, the humble mask, the clever mask, the kind mask. Layer after layer, his hands trembling, until finally the last mask fell away. And what he found was not emptiness. It was not a face that could be called ugly or beautiful. It was light, open, radiant, indefinable presence. Not a self that could be judged, because it had no edges, no fixed form, just awareness, just being. He wept with relief. He had been protecting a mask, and what he truly was had never needed protection at all. You know this feeling, don't you? The suspicion that beneath all your performances there might be nothing there? The fear that if people saw the real you, they would find something broken, something unacceptable, something that deserves the rejection you've been running from. Here is the truth they never taught you. What you are beneath the masks cannot be judged, not because it's perfect, but because it has no fixed form to judge. You are the awareness in which all the masks appear. You are the space in which every performance unfolds. You are the one who watches the fear arise, which means you cannot be the fear itself. And something that can be watched cannot be what you fundamentally are. This is not philosophy. This is direct pointing to what you already know in your quietest moments. You are not the one who can be diminished by opinion. You are the one who notices opinions arising. And here is something that may surprise you. The ones who judge you most harshly are the ones wearing the heaviest masks. Their judgment is not about you, it's about their own fear of being seen. They criticize because they are terrified of being criticized. They reject because they have been rejected. They point out flaws because they cannot bear to look at their own. When you see this, something shifts. The enemy becomes a mirror. The judge becomes a fellow prisoner. Does this land for you? And compassion becomes possible, not because you're being spiritual, but because you finally see the truth. They are empty boats, drifting through their own fog, crashing into whoever happens to be in their path. You've been living as if there's a courtroom in the sky. 12 figures in robes, watching your every move, taking notes, preparing their verdict. But here's what no one told you. When you look up at the jury box, it's empty. It was always empty. The trial you've been preparing for was never scheduled. The judgment you feared was a story you told yourself so many times, it started to feel like fact. You have permission to stop defending against ghosts. You have permission to see the boats as empty. You have permission to recognize that the self you've been protecting was a mask all along, and what you truly are cannot be touched. Now, how do we live this? How do we take this understanding and carry it into Monday morning, into the meeting, into the conversation you've been avoiding? The first step is simply to notice when you feel the tightening, the self-editing, the shrinking. Pause, just pause, and ask yourself, whose voice is this? Is this my wisdom speaking, or my fear of an empty boat? You don't have to change anything yet. Just see. Most of your performance is unconscious. You've been doing it so long that it feels like who you are, but consciousness is the first liberation. The moment you see the mask, you are already no longer completely identified with it, and habits can be changed, yes? Picture yourself in the next meeting. Someone asks a question and you have a thought, an idea, maybe even a good one, and you feel that familiar catch in your throat, that hesitation, that inner committee reviewing your words before they're spoken. In that moment, instead of obeying the fear, just notice it, name it silently. There it is, the fear of the empty boat. And then, if you choose, speak anyway. Not because the fear is gone, but because you see it for what it is. Or imagine a conversation with someone you love, someone you've been editing yourself around for years. And you feel something true wanting to be said, something real, something that might actually close the distance between you. And the fear says no. What if they judge you? What if they pull away? In that moment, remember the boats, remember the masks, and ask yourself, what is the cost of another year of hiding? The next time you open your mouth to speak and feel that familiar hesitation, notice it. Can you feel it, even now? That subtle tension? That's not protection, that's a habit. And habits can be changed. This is what it means to overcome the fear of being judged. Not to become immune, not to stop caring, but to see so clearly what judgment actually is and what you actually are, that the fear loses its grip. You overcome not by winning the war, but by realizing there was never an enemy. Freedom doesn't look like not caring. It looks like caring differently. It's not that others' feelings don't matter. It's that their judgments don't determine your worth. You can still be kind. You can still be considerate. You can still read the room. But from choice, not from fear. From presence, not from performance. You understand this now, don't you? You are allowed to be seen. You are allowed to be imperfect. You are allowed to say the wrong things sometimes and have the world not end. You are allowed to take up space, to have a voice, to be too much for some people and have that be completely okay. This is not arrogance. This is the deepest humility. to finally stop pretending, to stop performing, to simply be what you are and let the chips fall where they may. There is a place within you that has never needed approval, not because it's arrogant, but because it's complete. This is where your real voice lives, your real choices, your real life. It has been waiting for you patiently all these years, behind the masks, beneath the performance, beyond the fear. You don't have to become someone new. You have to stop pretending to be someone you're not. Remember where we began. The rehearsed conversations, the edited self, the invisible audience. These can soften now, not all at once, but breath by breath, word by word, choice by choice. You are not broken. You have never been broken. What you call fear is just wisdom that got twisted somewhere along the way. It was trying to protect you. It just didn't know that you never needed protection from opinions. You only needed to remember what you are. And what you are is not the mask. What you are is the light the mask was hiding. Are you still with me? Remember the man on the river. The fog has cleared now, and you can see, perhaps for the first time, that the boats were always empty. There was never anyone there in the way you feared. The judgment you spent your life defending against was a thought in someone else's foggy mind, projected onto a mask you thought was your face, threatening a self that never truly existed. And you, the one who has been bracing for so long, you can finally put down your oars and rest. Go now, not as someone who has been approved of, but as someone who no longer needs approval to be whole. Speak the word you've swallowed. Raise your hand. Let yourself be seen. Not because the judgment will stop, it won't. Empty boats will keep drifting through the fog. But you know now what they are, and you know what you are, and that changes everything. You have everything you need within you. You always have. The permission you were waiting for was never going to come from outside. It could only be claimed. And today, right now, you can claim it. May you walk through the world without your armor, lighter, softer, not unprotected, but no longer needing protection from ghosts. May you speak your truth even when your voice shakes. May you remember, in your lowest moments, that you are not the mask that others judge. You are the awareness in which all masks arise and dissolve. May you be at peace. If these words have touched something in you, if you feel even slightly lighter than when you arrived, I would be honored if you would share what has shifted in the comments below. Not for my sake, but for your own. There is power in declaring your freedom out loud, and there is power in letting others who are still hiding know that they are not alone. Until we meet again, be gentle with yourself. The war is over. The boats were always empty, and you, my friend, are finally